Since October 7, the world has witnessed an unprecedented surge of support for Palestine, yet support alone is not sufficient. Real change occurs when we channel our collective anger into tangible actions. Today we highlight one powerful example of such transformative action.
Saudi owns like 10% of US bonds. And so if they were to even just threaten to sell, not even actually sell, but just threaten to sell, it would tank the US economy so fast where they couldn't send a single penny of aid to Israel at that point.
Adil, creator of Boycat, an innovative app empowering consumers to avoid products linked to companies implicated in human rights violations, particularly related to Palestine. You've diverted more than $87 million away from unethical companies.
We're actually just past $220 million in divestment. Let's first allow someone to realize their purchasing power. Because when you help someone realize how much that dollar that they spend, power it actually has in a collective group.
You've already been offered to be bought out by an Israeli company, but also there's been death threats against you.
As long as you trust God, like everything will be fine. And like if the entire world's against me and they're trying to take me out, but God wants me dead in like 50 years, like they can't do anything. But if it's meant for me to go, it's meant for me to go.
Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of the Real Talk podcast, where every fortnight we try to bring you conversations with people challenging and shaping the truth we were conditioned to believe was actually true, as well as the voices of people who deserve our time and consideration, even though they don't have $1 million machine behind them pushing a propaganda line that does not serve us, but rather their interests only. I'm back in Sydney, Australia for this and a couple of other episodes, and also to see family and friends and followers who I would love to send a special message out to say thank you. Thank you for your moral, emotional, and financial support. It is a lonely and at times very psychologically and emotionally challenging path to continue to fight for justice and truth, especially against a massive global Zionist machine that has been planning and positioning people at all levels of media, politics, and industry for just this opportunity. The task ahead is daunting, but not if we band together and use our talent, skill, and energy to keep pushing the truth out and helping people understand how they can contribute to saving humanity. That's what it comes down to right now. It is a fight for our values, families, decency, honesty, truth, and people. So thank you for joining me, continuing to support this podcast. And if you feel you are benefiting from our fortnightly discussions, please remember to subscribe and share it with others who might also benefit from listening to these discussions. And if you want to take your support to another level, then please consider buying me a coffee once a month by making a $5 donation to enable me and my extraordinary team to continue to produce these podcasts and all the work that we do to ensure you and the world are better informed. Just click on the link in the description and follow the prompts. Thanks again for joining me, and let's jump into this episode. So I just want to set the scene, providing you with an introduction of what we're going to be talking about and why today. Since October 7, the world has witnessed an unprecedented surge of support for Palestine, a global wave of solidarity unlike anything we've historically seen. Yet support alone is not sufficient. Real change occurs when we channel our collective anger, passion, and more importantly, our advocacy into tangible actions that directly challenge an international system complicit in enabling Israel's open acts of genocide. Only then can we meaningfully advance towards Palestinian liberation. Today we highlight one powerful example of such transformative action. We speak with Adil AbuTalha, I hope I pronounced that right, an innovator whose profound passion for Palestine evolved into a practical solution with significant impact. But since October 7, 2023, there have been many remarkable acts and platforms that have emerged, each confronting injustice uniquely and effectively. Some include the Hind Rajab Foundation, which boldly pursues legal avenues to hold perpetrators of genocide accountable. Another platform is News Court, a groundbreaking media platform which exposes biases in news coverage and empowers us users to demand accurate representations of Gaza. Meanwhile, Tech for Palestine has united thousands of founders, engineers, and technology experts to collaborate on projects explicitly designed to support Palestinian liberation. Today, our conversation is with Adil, creator of Boycat, an innovative app empowering consumers to avoid products linked to companies implicated in human rights violations, particularly related to Palestine. His pragmatic approach exemplifies how individuals can actively participate in dismantling the structures supporting oppression. Welcome, Adil, and thank you for joining us from California, I believe you are in today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. That was an amazing introduction. I might need to take that from you next time I have a speaking gig. So please do send that one over.
Send it over.
But no, honestly, I literally just got back from Sydney like a month and a half ago, and it's one of my favorite places in the world, 100%.
Yeah, I do love it. Although I now live between Lebanon and Sydney, I always love coming home, even though it's cold and rainy today. But still, there's a beautiful atmosphere here. I'm staying in contact with the people, seeing what's going on, and we have an election on Saturday, a federal election, very critical for us to choose the right candidates. I know they're trying to swing everyone's, opinions towards issues that are not as important as humanity right now. They're diverting it away from the Palestinian issue. But in fact, it is basically a referendum on Palestine, and we're pushing that. There's a lot of people on the ground here pushing for awareness on how important it is to vote for the right candidate. It will be over by the time this podcast comes out, and I do hope that Australia votes for humanity, and that is for voting for parties like the Greens and even Labor. Although Labor has been compromised in the last year, it has pulled back and realigned itself with human rights issues far more than our Liberal Party, which is honestly scary to me, because the leader here, if you're not aware, he really is a miniature Donald Trump, and an even worse one than Donald Trump. He's just put forward all the same policies and is just taking a leaf straight out of the Donald Trump book, and it would be devastating for us and our values in Australia. What I love about Australia would be ruined if he became the leader. Sorry to segue into that, but it is an important topic that is front of mind right now, next few days. But Adil, let me just give people a very short introduction on you, and then I want to dive straight into this conversation. You are
Yeah,
a Yemeni Sri Lankan tech innovator who transitioned from a career in data science to app development, driven by a desire to support ethical consumerism. You're best known for founding Boycat, which we are going to dive into really shortly, and which my children all know about and were telling me all about it. So I was very excited when I told them that I was interviewing you, and they use it. So that's very encouraging. Just looking back at the history of it, it only started in late 2023, although you've been in the data industry since your teenage years. But you were motivated by the horrific situation in Gaza, I believe, and you taught yourself coding and to build Boycat. Allows users to easily identify and avoid brands linked to Israel. And your efforts quickly gained you traction. In 1 year, I think you launched it in 2024, and in that year you gained more than 1 million users, which is phenomenal. And I believe the records say you've diverted more than $87 million away from unethical companies, which is huge, tremendous effort. So congratulations on that. And despite facing professional setbacks, including being fired from your role at Linktree, you've remained completely committed to your mission, leading every aspect of Boycat's growth yourself. And today you're recognized globally as for combining technology, activism, and entrepreneurship to drive real-world impact and giving consumers the tools to align their spending with their values, which is, really sits true to where I sit, and where I believe the discussion and the awareness needs to be for all of us right now. So welcome again. And I really want to know about Boycat. I really want to dive into what it does, how it works immediately before I go back into the why. So tell us about it and how effective it is.
Yeah, of course. Honestly, the best part of the entire introduction was the part where you mentioned that your kids love it. Because that was a huge goal. I was like, if I can make kids love it, then everyone can love it. And so that's how you know it's effective.
Yeah.
And then small corrections. We actually just passed $220 million in divestment so
Oh,
far. Um,
brilliant.
so
Brilliant.
we're hitting some big numbers, thankfully. I think the easiest way of thinking about it at the base level, it's a platform that allows you to boycott and it allows you to find the alternatives at a very easy level. But it's a lot deeper than that. And I think that was the main goal. Because you have the overall goal, which is at the individual level, let's first allow someone to realize their purchasing power. Because when you help someone realize how much that dollar that they spend or that pound they spend or that couple hundred yen they spent, whatever the currency is, how much power it actually has in a collective group, they'll start making different decisions. And then they realize how much power they have and how much of a voice they have. And so the real goal behind it was, can I help someone speak the same language as corporations and governments? And obviously at an individual level, like, our monthly spend, our yearly spend is a tiny fraction, but collectively as a united group,
Mm,
it's huge where it can rival entire governments and corporations. So with Boycat itself, obviously, like the functionality it involves, scanning products and barcodes. It involves searching for brands. It involves finding alternatives. And there's features within it that allow you to find local businesses in your area that you can support, whether it's like a burger shop, it's a coffee shop, and so on from there. And it expands into a news cycle where you can find the latest news regarding anything in terms of targets, in terms of companies that we're trying to help flip their stance on this entire issue itself.
mm,
We even launched our social aspect as well, where you can join a team and you can find your friends that are part of Team Australia or Team USA or Team Barcelona, whatever, like the different random aspects where you can collectively track your divestment as a team. Because the goal there was like individually it's hard, but when you know that you and your friends are all kind of getting together and making a contribution, it's like it all adds up, and it's really nice to visualize that.
Can I
But
just interrupt you there for a minute, just because before you continue? But on the point about local businesses, do local businesses register? Do they align? How do they get onto, your app so that people can find them?
yeah, that's actually a great question. And actually is part of the segue, so it's great that you caught on to it.
Mm,
The first part is we take an approach of innocent until proven guilty. And so that means we platform all businesses until we get reports and verified reports that there are businesses that, are supporting the Zionist entity or, unethical practices and so on from there.
mm,
The second is as long as they're online somewhere, we can platform them. It's really easy, like whether it's through, existing platforms that we can take data from, like, there's platforms called Yelp, there's platforms called like Olive, there's platforms called obviously Google Maps and other things as well too that we
mm,
can draw data from. But the best way to get platformed is actually we launched our ESG certification this past a week ago. So we call it our Boycat certified business. When you shop at a Boycat certified business, you're 100% certain that the money that you spend there is going to good cause and it's going to a business or a service that stands with your values. And we just wanted to create that data network, right? Where across the globe, wherever you shop, whether it's online, whether it's in person, whether it's getting a service provider or something, if you see the Boycat certified certification, it's like I don't have to think anymore. I know you know it's boycotting what I want to avoid, and it's spending money in the way that I really care about, and I want to spend my money in.
mm. And just tell me, obviously it's a play on boycott, but why boycat?
I love cats. That's the short answer. Actually, during this interview, you'll probably see two of them running around somewhere in the background at some
Right.
point.
Right.
Um, but I love cats. I've always loved cats. It just somehow kind of fell into my lap, right? I mean, the word boycat wasn't taken on any company, and I was like, you know what? I think it's meant to be at this point. So
Mm.
ran with that. Love fat orange cats, and that's kind of how it's been. The story has been there.
And of course, cat videos are the most popular on social media. So you should throw them into your mix as well. Just get your cats out there, boycotting stuff. I think it'll help the audience be more emotionally attached to the whole platform.
100%, 100%. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a
Yeah,
Boycat plushie that we're releasing very,
yeah,
very soon.
yeah,
That you can get. It has a little kafia as well.
great.
And on our socials, we have a very fat inflatable mascot of the Boycat itself.
Mm.
And usually in the videos, my mom is the one that's wearing it. So that's a little sneak peek there.
That's great. There's a couple of things I want to segue into there, but just before we go into one of them, the platform, and I had a look at the website, and you've got a whole range of products as well. That are they created by Boycat? Are they different suppliers that have listed their products there? How does that work?
Yeah, on the Boycat platform, we just platform as many businesses as we can that we get reached out to and so on from there. On the Boycat arm of it, which is kind of another play on words
Good
with
on
the
you.
online marketplace in a sense, it's
Yeah.
all an affiliate style right now, until we can handle and we can get to a point where we can do fulfillment and distribution because we don't want to rely on things like the major companies like Amazon and so on from there. So they're all just partners
Mm.
that we partner with to get a discount code that makes you more incentivized to purchase ethically because it's a clean business. You get a good deal off of it, and you can continue in that direction. So that's kind of how it works right now.
Mm. And just on the side of the growth of this opportunity, where do you see it growing? What is your vision for it, and how, I want to get into your attachment and your alliance with BDS, which is fantastic. Is that helping you grow? Is it giving it more exposure?
Yeah,
How's that working?
100%. So I think I'll answer the first question first, and I'll go into the BDS part second. The vision is like, can we have a seat at the table, right? Like that's the biggest thing because you have decision makers like U.S., UK, Australia, Israel, UAE, Saudi, and stuff. But a lot of the people making the decisions at the top are making decisions that are against all our values,
Yes.
and it's surprising in that sense. And so I realized that we have to have a seat at the table where it's all of those countries and all those leaders, and then Boycat as a whole, where we can help make the decisions in the long run. I'm sure you probably know this, but just for the audience as a whole too. But like Saudi owns like 10% of U.S. bonds, and so if they were to even just threaten to sell, not even actually sell, but just threaten to sell, it would tank the U.S. economy so fast where they couldn't send a single penny of aid to Israel at that point. And I was just like, why isn't that happening, right? And I was like, imagine if the people run by a very strong ethical background and moral compass was able to, have that power and help, prevent anything like this from ever happening. So like that's kind of the end goal is like, can we get to that point? And obviously to get to that point, there's a bunch of sub goals as well, like such as being able to have enough people and enough money being, distributed in certain directions where we can really influence and persuade a company to switch their stance on something like Philistine, but expand into other major causes around the world because our goal isn't to just stand against one oppression, but stand against all oppression.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter, religious background, doesn't matter what people look like, doesn't matter what race, whatever it is. It all matters. Like we have to stand against oppression as a whole, and that way we can unite against things like this, especially in the future, and hopefully prevent like Gaza from getting any worse than it already is right now.
Mm.
So yeah, that's kind of like the long-term goal.
Okay.
But obviously the BDS partnership helped a lot. I understood from the early get-go, it's like, hey, listen to some random kid that has a fun cat online, or listen to, the movement that's been in the works for over a decade that's actually creating change. And
Absolutely.
so I kind of, it clicked right away. I was like, the best way to expand their mission is to use technology, which is something they kind of lacked in a lot of ways. And the easiest way for me to get an authority is to get a partnership with them to make sure that everyone is united. Because I think it makes sense to say that it's easier to convince a company to switch or a government to flip its stance if you have one platform that has 10 million people behind it versus if you had, like 100 different platforms with like, 100,000 per project. It matters about influence. It matters about authority. As appreciative I am as a lot of other boycott initiatives and so on from there, I think we need to unite and be very strategic in how we target these companies. And that's kind of my goal is like, let's get the BDS partnership going. Let's get the trust of people around the world and then keep growing.
You're 100% right. And, you can see a significant number of platforms and initiatives that have sprung since October 7th. But being able to, corral them into a united effort, which is what you're saying, is going to have the biggest impact. And great that you're thinking that way. How old are you? You're only 23 or something. You're a baby or something.
No. I turned 27 this year, so I'm getting
27.
old. I'm
Still,
in the
still a baby.
late 20s.
But the ability to think the way you're thinking and have that vision already to see how important it is a credit to you and everything that, what you stand for. It's so important to you, obviously, why you've gotten into this and devoted your time to it. I'll go back into that. But The to your personal story, you're talking about taking on the biggest guns in the world ever. Right now, the last year and a half, 2 years, we have realized and witnessed how coordinated, how well planned, how strategic. This is 100-year-old plan, and they've just been building it to get to here. And we've been sitting blindsided, obviously not aware of what's going on. So, how do you propose, with the best of intentions, even with BDS and others joining you, that you're going to be able to confront the challenges that they're gonna throw at you? Because I believe you've already been offered, to be bought out by an Israeli company, but also there's been death threats against you. So, can we get into that?
Yeah, of course. I think it's actually funny. So we got another offer letter or offer inquiry like this morning. I just tweeted about it just a couple hours ago. But I think it goes back to the fact that we're building Boycat, and like with my intention is that it's a thing that can outlive me, and it's built as a for-profit strong business that will outlive no matter who's in charge. Because entity has to exist. Like Boycat as a whole has to exist in the world and has to be non-reliant on myself. So that if anything does happen, obviously like, the movement can still go and things can still happen. But I think as long as you build it in a way that kind of mirrors a lot of how they built their infrastructure in their companies, it's like the blueprint's already there. And so someone just has to take the first step and kind of, go on the rough path and make the path easier for the next people that come behind. Um, so I wouldn't say, I'm not trying to like obviously say I'm a pioneer or anything, but I think I'm kind of navigating through the tougher obstacles to start and kind of hoping to be able to give that blueprint out to everyone else that needs to build in other areas as well too, because obviously economy is important, but there's education, there's politics, there's journalism, there's healthcare, there's so many different areas that we need to be building on and a unified front to create change in the long run.
So, how many people are working with Boycat now for you and helping it grow?
So I got two of my college like best friends to join me pretty early on, and we just hired our first intern about a month and a half ago. So it's just four of us, but really the three of us kind of like three of us together really built out the like majority of the platform from the get go.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So, with those threats that we're considering and the opportunity, the only real threat to Boycat and this whole movement is if you sell out. Because if you sell out, they'll shut you down. And the way that you just explained about it's got to outlive you and it's got to be a standalone and it's got to be for profit so that it doesn't rely on, the handouts of people that will manipulate your position and change your whole mission. The possibility of being bought out is minimal whilst you're still there. And God willing, you'll be there for a very long time because this is something that has got legs that will continue to grow. But are you concerned about the threats of death threats against you? Because, we know how, callous and cold-blooded Mossad can be. And not only that, CIA, whatever, they can take people out. It's nothing to them and have done for, a century. So I'm sorry, I don't want to scare you, but I mean, do you take that seriously? Because I mean, you're up to $200 million now that you've pulled away from those areas and businesses. You get to $1 billion, you're already a threat. But if you get to $1 billion, you're a monumental.
Honestly, it got to a point I think probably after the first week of death threats, which is realistically it was January when we launched it, and then probably the same month I got a bunch of them. I was like, I don't really care. And so I think it's a couple of things, right? It's like, one, I'm already on their radar. I acknowledge that they're listening. They probably have everything that I'm doing tracked and so on from there. So I'm trying to take the most secure routes for everything. But, in Islam, there's this concept that like, as long as you trust God, like everything will be fine. And like, if the entire world's against me and they're trying to take me out, but God wants me dead in like 50 years, like they can't do anything. But if it's meant for me to go, it's meant for me to go. And that's just how I'm going to treat it is like, if it's my time to leave, it's my time to leave. And if it's not, it's not. I'm going to keep doing what I need to do. So I'm not necessarily worried about it. But obviously like there's questions that come to mind, especially when I travel. I travel quite a bit now because of Boycat, and it's a privilege, honestly. But there's always moments where you're just like, should I do this? Should I not? And then so I just take the most strategic option when I have to make those decisions.
And that's, I think, being complicit in your safety. And I think that's something that, I've read a lot of books and stories, and I've watched films about great, civil rights leaders, and I feel sad, sometimes, because, okay, maybe the way it's portrayed, that they should have known better, they should have known better. And I am a complete believer in God, and, but God also gives us signs. I don't want to get too religious, but God is also giving us people to give us warnings, to give us signs, to keep us safe. So I just would love that, take that on board and keep doing the right thing and taking safe routes and whatever you can do. I mean, I had to leave Lebanon last year when Israel was bombing the hell out of Lebanon. I didn't want to leave, but after many people calling me saying, you've got to get out there, get out of there, you're crazy, you're on their radar. And I said, I'm insignificant, but it was like, it doesn't matter, it's too easy now. Then I got a call from a very good friend of mine who doesn't call me very often, and he's in the diplomatic unit, UN sort of field. And he said, where are you? I said, Beirut. And he said, you got to leave, you can't be in Lebanon. I said, no, I'm here, I'm waiting, I'm going to report, I'm going to cover this, He said, Daisy, you've got to live for another day, and what you're doing needs to continue. And it's way too easy for them to just pin you out. You've seen how they can pin people in cars, on a bike, in a apartment block. And he said, I'm telling you, and I've been talking to that other side, unfortunately, and it's just not healthy. And so I took that advice. It's the only one I took serious, and I said, okay, maybe that's God saying, I've sent you a rabbi, I've sent you a sheikh, I've sent you a priest, and you still don't listen to me. I'm sending you this guy, listen to him. And so I, booked a flight. Took me 2 days to get a flight out of there, but yeah. So I send that wisdom off to you because, we can be brave and courageous and bold, and God's guiding us, but we also need to take whatever precaution we can take, what's in our control. Sorry, I'm very protective of, not only my children, but people on this mission, because we need to stay as much alive as possible to keep this going. So I wanted to share that with you. So I want to now just go into the why. Of course, your values are very clear, but what was it that made you snap and say, I'm doing this? What was it? Was it a visual from Gaza? Was it a story? Was it Hind Rajab? What was it that said, we've got to change this?
I think it was a moment, probably like a week and a half into like post October 7th, where I just started realizing like petitions and protests, like they just weren't working, like emails weren't working. And like I realized this is the exact same playbook they've done for years. And I'm like, why haven't they listened? And then I think it all clicked. It's actually cheesy, but the story is I had a dream one night and I woke up and I saw exactly what I had to do, type of thing.
Wow. That's God, the vision.
100%. And so like I saw the exact thing. I saw my future of what I needed to do, and I was like, this is what I have to do, and like I have to like pursue this. There's an opportunity in front of me, and to like create change and at least try to. And the best case scenario is like I was living very comfortably in California, working in tech. Like when you have like a California tech job, and you really are like the top 0.001% of the world, like bills are never really an issue. Like it's peaceful, right? But at the same time, you're never fulfilled. And I think that was a huge part. So it was like a bunch of small factors that kind of added of like I wasn't fulfilled working in big tech. Had this dream, and I think almost understanding and fully realizing the fact that like people always are like, this goes back to the security thing. It's like, are you worried about your family? I'm like, my family is technically also like the Palestinians and like the kids and stuff that are suffering. Like just because I have different skin color, like different type of blood running through me, doesn't mean they're not family. Especially from like a religious standpoint, but even like humanity standpoints, like we're all related somehow. And I'm just like, I'm not worried about my family here. I'm worried about my family over there. And so for me, it's like having all those things just kind of add up, and there was like a boiling point, I think. And then I was just like, we have to create change and like do whatever you can. Because imagine if you died today, and it's like you get asked, what did you do? And you have nothing to say. And that's a really scary thing to think about. So that's kind of those are kind of my whys, I guess, behind everything.
Mm, I love it. Yeah, they're big questions, and a lot of people never ask themselves those questions, and it's sad, because then they just continue their life without real purpose and a sense of fulfillment, which is what you were talking about, wanting to have that sense of a contribution that you're really making a difference. And yeah, I think that's wonderful that you did ask yourself that question, because yeah, we have a lot of people who have high paying jobs and they just waste their money on drugs or alcohol or whatever, and they don't really look at what they're doing. They're just drifting. And I think this is also something that more people, because of Gaza, because of everything being blown up, all of our values, all of our institutions that we believed in, we were told to believe in for decades, being discarded and having no value, from the International Court of Justice to the International Criminal Court warrants to any resolution at the United Nations. Nothing gets done and nothing changes. It really challenges us to think about. Some have thought, well, it's all shit anyway, excuse my French, but it's all for nothing anyway, I'm just going to live my life. But others, I know, and I've been part of a lot of different groups around the world, especially women's leadership groups, who are coming together, who are being, emotionally, empathetically, compassionately being affected by all of that's going on, especially in America, and are finding the opportunity in the disaster, which is really what you did. Find the opportunity that will shift us and find a way through this darkness that we're all experiencing right now. There's a lot, as I said at the start, it's a bit of a daunting task, but we're in an era, and interesting that we're living through this time and we're being called upon to do something about it. Do you think about it in those sort of terms, in this, historically looking back at it, that you are part of a generation, that is forced to confront? I don't think we had Hitler, but I don't think Hitler was as bad as what we're going through right now. I might be wrong, but what do you say?
I'm a very big believer that coincidences aren't actually fully true. I think everyone has a purpose, everything has a purpose and a time for everything. And we were chosen because we're the ones that can actually create the change in this current era of things that were happening. Maybe if it was 80, 90 years ago, it's like maybe my brain and whatever gifts I was given and blessings I was given wouldn't have applied to creating change in that period of time. So I think everything is meant to be, in a sense. As sad as it is, I think it's necessary, because as sad as October 7th was, it was a catalyst for so many people around the globe to be connected. Like, you and I would not be having this conversation if it didn't happen. Myself and all these people I grew up watching that are now contacts on my phone, like I would never have had that unless it happened. We're all building towards creating change, creating long lasting efforts, and so on from there. And so I think I think of it, it's a funny era, because it's like we're so connected around the world with social media, with technology, with the ability to teach yourself how to code in like a month. Like, no one has an excuse, really. It's like there's so many like options and opportunities to do something, and it's just, we're finally at the point where it's like, all right, there's a couple of us that are willing to like just try, and then if we can win and succeed in this kind of change, it's like we can inspire like millions and millions of people to do the exact same. Because I'm sure there's someone better out there in the world that's more suited for what I'm doing right now. I have no doubt about that. But I think, I just took the first step, and then the next step and the next step. And, I'm sure you were the exact same, where it's like maybe there are more popular people out there that could have done it, but you took the first step and you grew a platform. You're platforming amazing, builders and community people around the world. And so, people like you and others that are in similar boats, it's like you took the most of the opportunity, and you're like, I'm going to be the one that takes the first step, and then keep going, and you start running, and you pave the road for millions of people behind you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Adil, because yeah, we can always, because society makes us feel this way, feel like we're not enough. someone's better than me. Somebody else should be doing this, and like I'm not, educated enough or big enough or whatever. I have enough resources. But what you talked about, taking the first step and just following it, and continuing step after step, is all that we have to do. And I think the example that you've set is a real inspiration and should be an inspiration to others who get an idea and to reach out or to start something, but there is a lot that they can join. And that's one of the most important messages that, I think your platform is a representation of a tremendous, not only act, but a message. And the fact that there's community now, and I just want to go back into that, the fact that you're growing a community where people can find each other and feel safe with one another because they're aligned on these values, is something extraordinary, because that's what people use Facebook, Instagram, and all those other social media platforms, most of them for, to find their community. But they're not really finding it in the same way as possibly what your platform could do, and how you want to expand Boycat into. So just give me a little bit on the possibility of, how people can be united in a community on the platform.
Yeah. There's the short-term vision, the medium-term vision, and the long-term vision, right? So the short term is, can we get you, your friends, your family all on board where you can see your instant impact of, I'm divesting this amount of money, I'm shopping this way, I'm learning about this, and so on from there. The medium-term impact is, now that you know, like, you're the people that are kind of close to you and you're joining communities and so on from there, it's like, can you actually create the change in your local community? So can we start using everyone in, Team Sydney, for example, or, Team San Francisco or New York, to create change in those areas where they can actually have an impact on, the large scale issues of in the Gaza and stuff. Like, if you can help your city divest and you can start moving in that direction, it's like, that's the first step of community. And when you start realizing that, you start being able to, create change, you can start going to the other aspects of life where it's like, all right, I can create change. But now I can shop with my friends, where I can share recipes, I can share, shopping lists, I can get partners, we can pool our points to get, free coffee at a drink at a coffee shop or something. It's like, there's a bunch of different options in the medium term. And the long term vision is like, when you think about shopping, I want you to think about Boycat, because when you spend your money, the way you spend your money matters. And so if you never have to worry about how your money's being spent, you know it's going to the right place. That's how you know, like, there's a real community. Like, if anyone buys through Boycat, if anyone buys through or shops or avoids through Boycat, it's like, like, that's someone that resonates with your humanitarian values across multiple causes, right? And so that's kind of the long-term vision, I think, and the goal for the community aspect.
Great. It's great to see that, there's so much more that it can expand into, and should. So it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Before we wrap up, what I'd like is for you to tell us and all of the audience listening and watching this episode the message you'd like to share with them and how they can get involved, or what you want to say to them.
Yeah, I think the short-term message is, every little bit of effort matters. I did my best, and I'm still going to do my best, and my team is doing our best, so that we can make your life easier to, like, create change in the world. And even if we can sway one or two or three decisions of you buying something, that's going to have a lasting impact, and, like, hopefully does change the result in Gaza right now and prevent that from ever happening in the future. So really just, like, put in effort every day to try to create change, whether or not you're, like, motivated or not to, just, like, try to. And we're going to create the infrastructure so that way you're incentivized to in the future. A little teaser. But that's really it. Just, like, create change and be someone that's, like, almost, like, bold enough to, like, do that change. Because, like, imagine if you have to ever face a kid from Gaza, like, right now. It's like, and they were to ask you, like, what did you do to help me out? And you really just said, like, you were like, oh, I'm too busy, I was buying McDonald's, or I'm buying Starbucks, or, I'm buying whatever. It's like, you're contributing to someone that's hurting them. And, like, why would you ever want to be a part of that? You want to be able to have an answer that is so clean and so pure that you can be like, I did everything I could. And this is the easiest way. It's like how you spend your money. You're really not hurting your life. It's like, maybe you have to drive an extra 5 minutes. Maybe you have to, like, spend $1 or $2 more on something else. Maybe it's whatever. It's like, it's small minor inconveniences that actually, like, do make a large difference, as long as you're willing to sacrifice a little bit. And in terms of getting involved, I mean, like, we obviously get shadow banned all the time. So it's like, sharing, talking about Boycat, making videos about Boycat, like, helping spread the words, like, the biggest thing. The second thing is just supporting us through our endeavors. Like, we obviously have memberships, we have our business models where we're trying to help businesses get platformed, being able to go to your local businesses and being like, hey, you should get certified. We can platform you, blah, blah, blah. It's like that helps a lot because it's like, one, it allows us to get to a point where we can sustain ourselves. And then two, it creates, an opportunity for multiple people in your area to be able to shop at that new place. So you can support a business, you can get, we can support a business, and then we can help grow that entire economy where people are not afraid to be, a Boycat certified business or not afraid to be pro-Palestinian in the world. And so that's kind of what my message is, I think. It's like, do your part, and your part can range from, just boycotting or being a part of the ecosystem of supporting your local businesses, ethical businesses, whether it's online, in person, or even just sharing videos like this. It's like, you never know, like maybe one retweet, maybe one share, one comment will boost it. So it shows up on someone's algorithm and they can learn about it. And maybe they're the ones that's inspired. I'll end off with this one story that my friend in Sydney told me it, so it's really funny. But he was like, live your life like a honeybee, because a honeybee believes its entire purpose is simply just to get nectar out of a flower and go back to the hive to make honey. But along the way, it takes pollen from that flower and it drops it off in different areas. And sometimes that pollen ends up, dying out and it doesn't lead to anything. But sometimes that pollen ends up pollinating a bunch of flowers in gardens and forests where the amount of honey produced from that area is infinite times amount than that one bee that thought its entire purpose was to get nectar and go back to its hive could ever make. So even if you think your entire purpose, or maybe all you're doing is simply sharing or boycotting, it's like there could be a side effect where you inspire someone, your kids are inspired, your friends are inspired, where they go and they do what they need to do, but then they could also create a movement or create a team or a change or something that does infinite times that you could have done by yourself. So don't like overshadow the small things that you can do.
Yeah, love it. I love that story. Just one last thing. So, at the moment, are you financially stable? Are you looking for ethical investors? Maybe we can get some people to throw some money your way if we expose that.
Yeah, of course. We're actually it's almost impossible for us to raise traditionally. 99% of venture capitalists, especially around the world, they're all backed by the Zios, and the 1% that are typically Muslim or Arab, they're just like, we love you, we support you, but we cannot touch you. Like that's it. And I was not surprised. I kind of expected it, but I was like, this is so hard. So we rely on angel investors a lot, even donors that would just want to like don't care about like the equity or whatever. They just want to support and move the cause forward. We obviously have our membership on our platform that helps the most from the normal side, but proper investors, like they can reach out to me on like especially Twitter and Instagram. I'm pretty responsive on that.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll put that out there and make sure that if there's some ethical investors that we can send them your way, because this is a business that deserves investment. It's a unicorn, so you're crazy if you don't invest in it and get behind it. It's only going to get bigger, and it's so important. But it's terrible, isn't it? People say, I love you, but I can't help you. I love what you're doing, pat you on the back, but there's no financial contribution or support. But we'll try and see if we can support in that way as well. Thank you again, Bill, for joining me today, and had a wonderful insight. It's been a shift. Still talking about human rights, still talking about Palestine, but in a completely different way. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk and experiencing firsthand the real stories told by real people. I hope you found value and meaning, and encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Your ongoing financial support is vital to our ability to continue delivering these stories, so please remember to click on the donate button in the description, giving only what you can afford. I spent my whole life giving my time, money and skill to serve human rights and social justice causes, and I know it's not easy to keep giving selflessly. But this work is important because the mainstream media has failed to live up to their obligations. So we need to step up, speak up, or we're no better than them. I believe by tuning in to this podcast, you are someone who wants to know the facts and the truth, so you can independently decide what to believe and what not to. My job is to deliver that information. Yours is to place a value on it. Whatever you decide is humbly welcome. Thanks again, and see you on the next episode of Real Talk.